On the day whenever Ty and I were going to have breakfast with Sam and Irish and explain why Ty had been SNY and was now trying to program as a GP inmate, I woke up early. It was like 3 in the morning and silent on the tier whenever I woke up, just fully awake with my mind racing a mile a minute. I should have been spending my time strategizing, coming up with a plan, maybe some trick that I could use to get myself out of this situation. Instead, I just beat myself up for being in the position I was in. I remembered showing up at San Quentin, telling myself I was going to survive no matter what it took, that I was going to make it through. I'd keep my head down, I'd keep my mouth shut, I wouldn't get involved in other people's problems. And here I was, just a couple weeks in, and somehow I was not only on the hook for Mike not showing his paperwork like a suicidal idiot, but now I was having to explain why my co-defendant had been PC, was a rat, and was trying to program on the same yard as me. Maybe there was a solution, but I was nowhere near finding it. I was just beating myself up for an idiot for being in this situation. I'd said I was going to mind my own business, and I was just doing the worst job of that. And literal hours passed with my mind just going around and around in this little loop before finally the cop came around and started opening doors for breakfast. Ty and I sat down with Sam and Irish for breakfast that morning, and it was tense from the very first moment that we sat down. You have to understand there are only 4 chairs at a table, so it was just the 4 of us. And that you don't have a lot of time for breakfast. As soon as the first person sits down to eat, the cops start timing to start telling people, get up, go back to your cells. They have to feed a lot of inmates in the same chow hall, so they're always pushing people to hurry up. They yell, next row, finish up, go back to your cells. Every 15 seconds or so until people start filing out. And they will single individuals out and write them up if they take too long to eat. Sam didn't waste any time since we didn't have much time, but instead of turning to Ty like I thought he would, he turned to me and he leaned in and said, Aaron, I gotta ask you what's up with the Mendocino car. What's wrong with you guys? Chief Broom won't answer a direct question unless you hold his face and ask him because he's so meted out. Mike won't show his paperwork. For all I know, that guy's a pedophile except for your say-so. Shotgun Steve's alright, I guess, but he keeps to himself. And I thought you were a reg, but first you stuck up for Mike, and now you're sticking up for this dude that you say is PC and you say is a rat. But you're still telling me he's okay to program on my yard. What's up with the Mendocino car? What's up with your county, man? This may seem like slightly aggressive criticism or maybe just general observations, but you have to understand that in prison, counties ride together. It's understood that all the people from one county, they're called a car, they're called homeboys, and it's expected that they'll back each other up. Because of this, it's not unheard of for a whole county to get greenlit on a reception yard. This means that it was perfectly feasible for him to pretend like everything was okay, go back to his cell, send word out, and then whenever I went out to yard, it was quite reasonable that everybody from Mendocino County was just going to get beaten up and stomped out and then rolled up. Thought about my answer for a second, and I explained, you gotta understand, Sam, Mendocino County is a rural county. We don't have a lot of structure in our county jail. It's not thousands of people and shot callers. It's just guys getting arrested and going to prison. Nobody told me what the rules were. Nobody told any of the guys in Mendocino County what the rules were. And then we hit this yard and you told me, and I started following the rules. I shaped up, and that's what this guy's gonna do too. Sam thought about it for a second. He said, all right, fine, but you need to understand, you have about that much wiggle room left. Your county has about that much wiggle room left, because I'm starting to think the whole lot of you just ain't no good. I didn't argue with him. He said I was all right for the day, and that's all I really wanted at that point, was to make it back to my cell without Irish coming over that table, because I had the real feeling that he was just waiting for Sam to give him a nod at this meal. Sam was done with me. He didn't say anything else, he just turned to Ty. And he asked him. He said, so this guy's your co-defendant, and you ratted on him. You told the cops he killed somebody. And then whenever you were in county jail, you got yourself in some trouble and went PC. And now you're here on my yard, sitting at my table, and you're telling me you're not a rat, you're not PC, and you want to program with the regs. Do I have that right? Ty answered as quickly as he could that he didn't consider himself a rat. That yes, he had informed on me to the police, but the things that he'd told them had been untrue, and that he'd only said them because the police were threatening him with the death penalty and he was scared, and he regretted it. Sam told him in no uncertain terms, I don't actually care what you told or who you told. There's a lot of guys on these yards that have informed on themselves to the police. What I need to know is that you're not a rat today, that you're not going to go talk to the cops about something going on my yard. And just so that we're really clear about what's going on here, you're not leaving this table without convincing me that. You either go back to your cell as a reg that's welcome to program on this yard, or right now, today, you go to the infirmary as a PC who I can't trust. Are we really clear about what's going on before you start talking? I have a lot of negative things to say about Ty. He's erratic. He doesn't really consider the consequences of the things he does and says sometimes. He just does what sounds fun. He can't really stick to a goal for very long. I talked about his ADHD, and he's hard to be around sometimes, very selfish. But I have some wonderful things to say about Ty, too. He was my friend for a long time, and there are reasons. He's clever, innovative, comes up with solutions other people wouldn't have thought of. And he's smart. He has a real high IQ. But most importantly for this situation, if you tell the guy he needs to sell a story that is important, he can sell a story. He's very charismatic and quick on his feet. He started talking. You see, the reason that Ty had been on the PC side of county jail actually very closely related to my case. There had been a gentleman, Julian Peters, and he was a convict. He'd done time and he knew a lot of tricks. So whenever he'd been trying to find a way to reduce his sentence and found out that Ty Abreu, a high-profile murder suspect, was in the pod with him, he'd started playing the ankles. First, he befriended Ty, convinced Ty that he had plenty of money, and asked Ty if he could arrange to have him bailed out. His bail was pretty reasonable. He only needed $1,000 to be released. And he convinced Ty that if he could effect that bail, he'd pay Ty back the $1,000. Ty called his girlfriend, said, go ahead and get the $1,000 together however you can, and bail out Julian because he needs to do things and he's going to pay us back. However, whenever Julian was bailed out of the county jail, rather than going about his life as you would expect, he had contacted the police immediately and explained that he was right outside of the jail and wanted to speak to the detectives involved in the Ty Abreu, Aaron Channel, August Stuckey murder case. The detectives had picked him up and taken him into an interview room, and he had pulled out a hand-drawn map that he had brought with him from county jail when he paroled. It had a little X marked on it next to a river in a place that anybody from Mendocino County, the Fort Bragg area, would have recognized. He told the cops that Ty had drawn this map and that it was where the murder weapon was hidden. The cops were eager to get this information. You see, the murder case had been very difficult for them to come to a clear understanding of. They knew that Ty, August, and myself had all three been out in the woods on the same day that Donald Perez was murdered. They know that the three of us had some involvement with the crime scene, that we'd all been there, but they did not know who had actually murdered Donald Perez, or how, or even why, since they weren't willing to believe that it was because he was a serial child pornographer. So they were very excited at the idea of getting a murder weapon, possibly with fingerprints on it. They offered him a small reduction of sentence if he'd cooperate with them and testify against Ty, which he readily agreed to. This was the point of him having drawn this map and claimed that it had come from Ty. You see, the police had went to the location indicated on the map and had not found a murder weapon because there wasn't one there. It was all a ruse enacted by Julian. And this might have been the end of the story, with Julian receiving a small reduction in sentence and the murder weapon never being found, except that about a week later, Julian was caught with a small amount of drugs and returned to county jail, the same pot as Ty. This presented Julian with a real problem. You see, whenever Ty received his legal paperwork from his lawyer, Julian would be named and outed as an informant. So he started looking for an angle. The shot caller in their pod was an old HA named Morty and doing a chunk of time. And he pretty much ran that part of the jail. Julian went into Morty's cell when Morty wasn't around and stole a bunch of canteen from him. Ran it right over to Ty's cell, hid it behind some stuff, told Morty he'd seen Ty going around Morty's cell and wanted to know what was going on. On inspection and discovering the canteen missing, Morty had beaten Ty bloody, according to Ty. And he'd then been taken to the PC part of the prison, hadn't understood what was going on. Once he realized he was surrounded by a bunch of pedophiles and rapists, he'd taken off on somebody and been put in isolation for the rest of his time in county jail. Sam bought it. He said that was a good enough story that he believed that might have happened, but this didn't make them square. Ty made a choice. Put on a white jumpsuit, walked around with a bunch of child molesters and rapists, and even if he did right and got off, he owed. Sam explained to him in no uncertain terms there was going to come a time whenever there was some dope on the yard and they needed someone to hold it. They needed somebody to bring a knife out or maybe even use it. And whenever that happened, Ty was going to raise his hand because he had to clean up the mess he made. Ty's no dummy. I think this was the point at which Irish was going to come right over the table and inflict violence if he didn't agree. So he did. He said, absolutely, I got that. You tell me what to do, I'm your man. At this point, the cops were already yelling at us to wrap it up and go back to our cells, so that's exactly what we did. After that door locked behind me, be honest, I kind of thought that was the day that something bad was going to happen. I was going to get beaten up or stabbed or something, or have to watch Ty bleed out in front of me there in the chow hall. It was not. I made it home safe. And I resolved to myself that this was the last time that I was going to get involved in somebody else's mess. That I was just going to mind my own business and finish my term. That's the thing, though, is we know that's not true. We know that a couple of years later, whenever I saw somebody that was going to get murdered, I dropped a kite, I ratted, I stuck my nose in their business, and it hurt me grievously. It was a bad chunk of time for me. I paid. But so what? Odds are excellent that there's one or two men walking around this earth right now who would have died that day if I hadn't done something to protect them. Maybe more. I don't know what good I did while I was in prison. But my resolution that I was going to mind my own business, that I was just going to let bad things happen and ignore them, pretend like they weren't my problem, that was a bad resolution, and thank God that I broke it. You can't go through life with blinders on, pretending you don't see the bad stuff that happens around you. Take a moment. Resolve that you're going to try to actually see the things that you've put out of your mind, that you've decided don't affect you. The homeless guy without a jacket with a misspelt sign saying, "Hungry, please help." The fact that your coworkers are overworked or your boss doesn't know what to do. I don't know what the things are in your life that you've tuned out, that you've decided aren't your problem. But we can't go through life like that. It is my problem. It is your problem. We're all in this together. So resolve that the next time that you run into one of these things that you've decided you aren't going to deal with, just spend that extra second and ask if that's a good decision, if you should keep avoiding them, or if you should put your nose in somebody else's business and help maybe make the world a better place.